Your dog is acting strange, pacing, whining at nothing, refusing to settle. You look around, nothing is wrong at least, nothing you can see or hear. Then, 12 hours later, the earth shakes, or the storm rolls in, or someone in your home collapses with a seizure, and you think back, your dog knew. But did they? Can a dog actually sense a disaster before it happens, or is this one of those things humans desperately want to believe? And if it's real, what exactly is going on inside their body that allows it? The answers will change the way you look at the animal sleeping at your feet right now, because the science here is not folklore. It is not guesswork. Parts of it are measurable, recorded, and published in peer-reviewed journals, and parts of it remain genuinely unsolved, a mystery that some of the world's best researchers are still working to crack. Let's go through what we actually know. 1. The senses your dog is working with are nothing like yours. Before you can understand what a dog detects, you have to understand what a dog is capable of detecting in the first place. And the gap between their senses and ours is genuinely difficult to comprehend. Start with smell. According to Alexandra Horowitz, a dog cognition researcher at Barnard College and author of Inside of a Dog, dogs possess up to 300 million olfactory receptors in their noses. Humans have approximately 6 million. The section of a dog's brain devoted entirely to analyzing scent is proportionally about 40 times larger than the equivalent region in the human brain. Multiple scientific sources, including the American Kennel Club and peer-reviewed literature, put a dog's sense of smell at anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's, though it is worth noting that estimates vary significantly across sources and breeds. Now consider hearing. According to research published in Audiological Studies and summarized by psychologist Dr. Stanley Coren of the University of British Columbia, humans typically hear frequencies ranging from 20 Hz to approximately 20,000 Hz. Dogs hear from roughly 67 Hz up to 45,000 Hz, more than double our upper range. At high frequencies, dogs can also detect sounds at far lower volumes than we can. What this means practically, your dog is walking through a world saturated with information you cannot access, chemical signals you cannot smell, sounds you cannot hear, vibrations you cannot feel. They are not sensing the same world you are. They are sensing a richer, denser, more layered version of it. That is the foundation. Now let us look at what they are doing with it, too. The earthquake evidence is real, but it is not what most people think. For centuries, people have reported animals behaving strangely before earthquakes. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the earliest recorded account dates to 373 BC in ancient Greece, when rats, weasels, snakes, and centipedes reportedly abandoned their homes days before a major earthquake struck the city of Hellas. Those are historical anecdotes. What about controlled research? In 2020, scientists from the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior in Germany published a study in the journal Ethology that attached high-sensitivity motion sensors, recording up to 48 movements per second, to 6 cows, 5 sheep, and 2 dogs living on a farm in an earthquake-prone region of northern Italy. The researchers monitored the animals continuously over several months, during which official Italian authorities recorded approximately 18,000 seismic events in the region. What the data showed, according to lead researcher Professor Martin Wikelski, was striking. The animals showed unusually restless behavior in the hours before earthquakes. And critically, the closer the animals were to the earthquake's epicenter, the earlier their unusual behavior began. In some cases, according to the study, that window extended up to 20 hours before the quake. The researchers were careful about what they concluded. Before the behavior of animals can be used to predict earthquakes, Wikelski stated, researchers need to observe a larger number of animals over longer periods of time in different earthquake zones around the world. Meanwhile, Dr. Stanley Coren published his own findings, drawn from what he described as a fortunate accident of timing. He had been collecting daily data on activity and anxiety levels in 200 dogs as part of an unrelated study on seasonal mood changes in animals. The day before a magnitude 6.8 earthquake struck the Pacific Northwest, his data showed that 49% of the dogs displayed a significant increase in anxiety, and 47% showed considerably elevated activity, sharp departures from their stable daily averages. Coren further found that dogs with smaller heads and pricked ears showed the most dramatic behavioral changes before the quake, while dogs with hearing impairments showed almost none. This pattern, he argued in Psychology Today, suggested the dogs were likely hearing something specifically, high-frequency sounds produced by rocks fracturing and grinding underground in the hours before a major seismic event. However, it is important to be transparent here. Both the U.S. Geological Survey and National Geographic have noted that despite these compelling findings, a reproducible, reliable connection between specific animal behavior and an imminent earthquake has not yet been scientifically established. As geophysicist Andy Michael of the USGS told National Geographic, What we're faced with is a lot of anecdotes. Animals react to so many things, so it's hard to have a controlled study to get that advanced warning signal. The data is building. The science is not yet settled. 3. The seizure detection is a different story, and the proof is far stronger. If the earthquake evidence is compelling but still debated, what researchers have found about dogs and epileptic seizures is something else entirely. A 2019 study published in the journal Scientific Reports, conducted by researcher Amélie Catala and her team at the University of Rennes in France in partnership with Medical Mutts, a service dog organization in Indianapolis, trained 5 dogs to detect seizure-related scent samples collected from epilepsy patients. The result? All 5 dogs successfully discriminated seizure odor from non-seizure odor. According to the published findings, the sensitivity and specificity achieved were among the highest ever recorded for any disease detection by dogs. What this tells us is that epileptic seizures produce a measurable, detectable odor, a specific chemical signature that dogs can identify. A separate 2021 study published in Frontiers in Veterinary Science found that even untrained pet dogs showed behavioral changes when exposed to scent samples associated with human epileptic seizures, suggesting this detection ability may not require formal training. A review of 28 published studies on seizure alert dogs, published in the journal Epilepsy and Behavior, found that dogs reportedly alerted their owners to oncoming seizures within a time window ranging from 10 seconds to 5 hours. In advance, though, the review noted that much of the supporting evidence comes from owner-reported questionnaires rather than controlled laboratory conditions, and called for more rigorous prospective research. According to Craig Angle, co-director of the Canine Performance Sciences program at Auburn University's College of Veterinary Medicine, dogs are effectively biological sensors, capable of detecting chemical concentrations at levels far below any man-made instrument. He has cited the dog's estimated 300 million sensory receptors as central to this capability. 4. They can smell your stress literally. The disaster sensing does not end with earthquakes and seizures. A 2022 study published in the journal PLOS One, conducted by researchers from the University of Belfast and led by Dr. Clara Wilson, tested whether dogs could distinguish between human breath and sweat samples collected under normal conditions versus samples collected immediately after a stressful task. The results showed that trained dogs correctly identified the stress samples at rates significantly above chance across multiple testing sessions. The study concluded that dogs can detect an odor component associated with acute human psychological stress in the absence of any visual or vocal cues. A separate long-term study, referenced in the same field and conducted in part by researchers at Linköping University in Sweden, found that the cortisol levels of pet dogs mirror those of their owners over extended periods. This finding, the authors noted, appeared to be unrelated to physical exercise, suggesting it reflects a psychological rather than physiological transfer of stress. What this means? In plain terms, when you're stressed, something in your body chemistry changes, and your dog can smell it. 5. What the science has not explained and why that matters. It would be dishonest to present this as a solved problem. It is not. The U.S. Geological Survey states directly on its website that consistent, reliable pre-earthquake behavior in animals, and a mechanism that explains how it works, still eludes us. Multiple hypotheses exist. Dogs may be detecting P waves, the faster, smaller seismic waves that arrive seconds before destructive shaking. They may be sensing ionization of the air caused by pressurized rock. They may be detecting the release of gases from underground before a fault shifts. None of these mechanisms has been conclusively proven. For storms, there is good reason to believe dogs detect dropping barometric pressure, changes in electrical charge in the air, and infrasound, low-frequency sound waves produced by large weather systems. But peer-reviewed studies specifically isolating which of these triggers the behavioral response are limited. What science has established firmly is this: dogs are operating with a sensory toolkit that human instruments are only beginning to approximate. Their noses detect concentrations at what the Phoenix Veterinary Center describes as 1 part per trillion, equivalent to a single drop of liquid in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Their ears access frequencies and volumes our ears cannot reach. Their brains are wired to process this information at a level we are still learning to measure. When a dog paces, whines, refuses to settle, and then a disaster follows, they were almost certainly reacting to something real, something physical in the environment that changed before any human instrument or human sense caught it. They were not predicting the future. They were reading the present, a present their senses had access to and ours did not. That dog watching you from across the room right now is carrying a sensory world inside them that took hundreds of millions of years of evolution to build. They smell what you cannot. They hear what you cannot. And in the spaces between what science has explained and what it has not yet solved, they are responding to signals we are only beginning to learn how to find. The The question was, can your dog sense disaster before it happens? The honest answer, based on the science, in many documented cases, yes, and researchers are working to understand exactly how. Watch them. They may be reading something you cannot yet see. If this changed how you think about your dog, do one thing before you go. Hit like, drop a comment telling us about a time your dog seemed to sense something before it happened, and subscribe, because understanding your dog at this level isn't just fascinating. It could matter more than you think.